Oh hey, welcome back. In today's video we're going to check out what is quite possibly my favourite offset guitar bridge of all time. And by the way, it's so good I've bought two. In today's video, we're checking out the Offset Guitars Bridge by High Spirit Guitars. Before we get into it, I just want to take a second to thank all of you who have supported the channel and helped it grow over the last 2 years. We've gone from 33 subscribers when the channel started in September 2022 to just under 500 subscribers now. So we're getting close to the point where I'll be able to start monetizing the channel. So I'm trying to improve the quality of the videos moving forwards as much as possible. If you've enjoyed any of the videos I've made or found them useful or interesting or helpful, please consider subscribing, commenting to give me some feedback and sharing it with your offset guitar nerd friends. I've got loads more offset guitar content planned, so please stick around for more. Alright then, so let's dig into this bridge. So, who are High Spirit guitars and why should you trust them to make a good offset bridge? High Spirit is a guitar maker based in San Diego who make truly original and beautifully quirky electric guitars of both offset and non-offset varieties. These artisan instruments are the handiwork of luthier Connor Kelly, who is clearly a lover of offset and offset adjacent guitars. One of the things that's always stood out to me about High Spirit is their choice of hardware, and almost every guitar that they make has Connor's proprietary High Spirit bridge on it, which is exactly the same as the bridge I have on this guitar and the bridge I have on this guitar too. So what exactly was it about the design that appealed to me so much in the first place? Well, this wasn't the first thing, but it is a really significant thing, so let's get it out the way from the beginning. This bridge cost, delivered to my front door in the UK, £110. A killer, artisan, USA made bridge for £110 is simply incredible. And if PayPal offered a better conversion rate, it would have been less than £105. Not only does this happen to be the best offset bridge I've ever tried, it's also one of the cheapest available on the market. For context, in the UK, this is half the price of a Mastery, a Descendant Companion bridge, a Thorn Brass Knuckle, a Tuffset bridge, and depending on the options that you choose, a lot of the Halon bridge upgrades as well. The fact that it is cheaper than UK made and EU made bridges is pretty incredible. And Connor, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for offering sensible and reasonable international shipping. It makes such a difference for people like us in the UK. So thank you. And by the way, in American, it costs $125. However, if a bridge is crap, it doesn't matter where it's made or how much it costs, it's still crap. So there has to be more to a good bridge than just the price. Luckily, however, the High Spirits bridge is packed full of great features. The first thing that caught my eye, and it really caught my eye, was the saddle design. Before I even knew the price of the bridge, I was sold on the saddles. I have seen some people online dismissing any offset bridges with 3 telly style saddles, saying that any bridge using telly style saddles is much of a muchness and they're all the same and you only really need one of them on the market because they're all doing the same thing. But that argument is completely ridiculous. It's like saying you only need one 6 saddle design on the market and that a Tuffset bridge is exactly the same in essence as a Staytrem bridge, or that a 2 saddle design like the Mastery or the RSD are effectively exactly the same bridge, or even that 1 saddle designs like the Caster bridge or the Thorn Brass Knuckle are exactly the same and they make each other redundant. It's just complete nonsense. If you think about it, there are really 4 main components of an offset bridge. You have the bridge posts, the bridge base, the saddles, and adjustment screws / springs. Really, if you think about all the different offset bridges you know, what is the thing that is the most different between them? Or has the most potential to be different? It's the saddle design. And so it doesn't matter how many saddles you have or what style of saddles they are. Those saddles can be radically different based on the particular design that the manufacturer has come up with. The thing that got me so excited about the High Spirit saddle design is that they have really deep string grooves and they have a really small and precise contact point for the string. They have 52mm string spacing and they're made of really nice high quality brass. I mean, come on, just look at this saddle design. You've got such a beautifully scalloped and shaped saddle here with so much material taken off on either side of the saddle to give you such a precise contact point. So the contact patch is really narrow both in this dimension and this dimension across here, whilst also giving the string a really secure and stable tight fit so that there won't be any side to side movement of the string there at all. They just sit in there so snug and so tight. It's such a killer design, it's amazing. I mean, just look at this here. You can see there how much material has been taken out right there. Oh, it's a thing of beauty. But why do I care so much about that? Why did that get me so excited? Well, first of all, the really deep saddles mean that I'm not going to have any issues of my strings popping out while I'm playing, because I play really, really hard, especially when I'm playing live. I really get in the zone and go crazy, and I've always had big problems of strings popping out the saddles playing live. So a really deep saddle design means I'm not going to have any concerns of the strings popping out. Secondly, a really precise and small contact patch for the string on the saddle means that you're going to be able to get your intonation really fine-tuned because the string is only touching as much of the saddle as necessary, and it has a really fine entry and exit point off the saddle. But more importantly than that is that it's going to massively increase the behind the bridge resonance you get, so that you're going to have way more opportunities to do creative playing behind the bridge and make horrible noise behind the bridge, and that's something that I really like about playing my offset guitars. And lastly, it aesthetically and tonally just keeps things really clear and simple and precise, which I think is really nice. Now, you might say to me, well, that's all well and good, but how different can it be to the other telly style saddles, particularly the Halon design and the KMS Jam Bridge design? Well, let's have a look. If we look at the Halon saddles, clearly they do have nice deep string grooves in the saddles. And they also have a similar scallop design to these saddles, where material is taken out of the saddle to create a smaller contact point. However, if we look a little bit more closely, we can see that that scalloping and that shaping of the saddle is really only on one side of the saddle in any particular or notable amount. If we take a close look at the contact patch as well, you can see that actually there's still quite a large amount of the saddle that the string will be touching in that design. And it doesn't have quite such a minimal contact point as something like a Mastery design, for example. Also, and this is really preference based, like the whole of the Halon design in general, the Halon saddles are very big and chunky. And I'm not sure how much I like that super chunky aesthetic. Okay, so let's move on to the KMS Jam Bridge then. Again, we have really nice deep string grooves with the proprietary V-rail saddle design. I own a KMS bridge and I do really like it, but it is different to the saddles on the High Spirit. First of all, the shaping of the saddles is very similar to the Halon design, where material is just taken off one side of the saddle to reduce the contact patch. And although there is a small indent on the other side of the string or other side of the saddle, it's not very significant. Secondly, if we look at the V grooves in the saddles, they are nice and deep, but you're getting quite a lot of contact of the string on the saddle, not only in the bottom of the groove, but also on the sides of that V groove as well. So the contact point isn't quite as precise as on the High Spirit bridge. And lastly, again, on aesthetics, the KMS Jam bridge saddles are as small as the Halon saddles are chunky. I would say they're possibly a bit too small looking to be pleasing to the eye, or as pleasing as they could be. Whereas these saddles are the perfect size, in my opinion. They just look right to me. If we compare the High Spirit bridge to this bobber bridge that I've made, which is a steel bridge with the brass Gotoh in-tune saddles on them, the saddles here are really wide and not very deep. And one of the big issues I have with these saddles, not only is a potential issue of string popping out the saddles, because there's really not much holding the string in the saddle there, but also the grooves here are very wide, which means the strings, especially these strings, can move within the groove because it's not a very precise contact point. Whereas these saddles have such a precise contact point, there is no potential for the string to be moving in the groove there at all. It's just held in really, really precisely and really firmly. There's no unwanted movement of the strings, particularly for hard playing or hybrid picking, which is a big problem with these saddles, which are 3-saddle telly design. So there's radical differences here. In my opinion, High Spirit have perfected the saddle design for an offset guitar with these saddles. I know that's a bold claim, but this is everything I've always been looking for in a guitar saddle design. I have seen comments on the High Spirit Guitars page on Instagram where they've posted pictures of their bridge, and someone has suggested that the design is over the top and unnecessary. But again, for me, this is absolute perfection. It seems odd to me to find a product that is really highly engineered and really beautifully designed and suggest that it's unnecessary and that you could settle for something less well designed and less highly engineered. Before I get so carried away about talking about the saddles that I forget the other cool features of the bridge, those are that it is made of really nice high quality materials. I said earlier that the bridge plate here was made out of nickel plated brass. It used to be, but I confirmed with Connor earlier that the current production model was actually made out of aluminium, and it's a really nice lightweight piece of metal, and it's really, really nicely engineered and made. It also has a really unique and original bridge post design, where the thimble inserts really snugly into the body, and then the bridge posts themselves are really thin with a round mounting disc on the top that the bridge sits on. This gives it its third unique characteristic that I really like, which is that it's a semi-rocking design. And what that means is that the bridge post is really firmly fixed in place, but the top of the bridge here has a bit of room to rock on the circular mounting point on the top of the post. That means that the bridge is staying absolutely rock solid and in place, and your intonation isn't moving, but you're still getting an element of that original rocking design. For me, that's the best of both worlds, and for a long time before I got this bridge, I was using those nylon shoulder bushings that you can get to put in your standard offset guitar bridge thimbles to give you that limited rocking design or limited rocking element. So for me, this is absolutely perfect. It's the best of both worlds for me. Some of you might argue it's the worst of both worlds, but for me, it really is the best. I like it so much, I have considered buying more to put on all of my guitars, but I also do like having and trying and using different bridges as well, so we'll see. Okay, so all of this so far really has been pretty theoretical. How does this bridge actually work in practice? What's been my experience with it? I think most significantly, one of the massive changes that this bridge has brought to my guitar is that I've been able to remove the shims from the neck of my guitars and massively lower the bridge height on both of these instruments. Previously on this guitar I was using that bobber bridge, and before that I was using the caster bridge. Both of those bridges required quite a high bridge height in order to keep the strings in place, and even then they weren't necessarily perfect, especially the bobber bridge. As I mentioned, you've got lateral movement of the strings moving either side in the saddle. The saddle grooves in this bridge are so perfect that I've been able to remove all the shims entirely and still don't have any issues with the strings popping out the saddles or strings moving in the saddles. The bridge height, I'll put a picture on the screen, but the bridge height is massively lowered on this guitar. On this Jag, I previously had a Staytrem bridge on there, specifically the bass 6 bridge. And again, I had a really high bridge height on there to keep the strings in place in the saddles without popping out and without moving around in the saddles. And again, the string grooves in the bass 6 saddles are wider, and so I just couldn't stop the electric strings from moving around in those string grooves, especially when I did hybrid picking, which I do a lot. The reason I was using a bass 6 bridge is because that is a Jazzmaster body that I've converted to a Jaguar. And in order to get the intonation in place, I need a really wide bridge. I thought the Staytrem was the only one that would do that, but actually this High Spirits bridge would do it too. Again, now on that guitar, I've also taken out all the shims and the strings are staying perfectly in place. The guitar feels so much more resonant now. And yeah, it's just a lot more comfortable to play with a more sensible bridge height. Both of these bodies have angled neck pockets, so there is still some pitch back on the neck, and both of these bridges are between 4 and 5 millimeters off the pick guard. So I'm really happy with how that has changed this guitar, and that one too. Also, the really small bridge posts on this mean that it fits a Fender Mute on there no problem at all. With a bridge like a Mastery or any other non-rocking bridge, the posts are so wide that they don't fit through the holes on a Fender Mute plate. But this fits perfectly with the Fender Mute, and there's no risk at all of the Mute plate rubbing against the bridge posts, which I was concerned about before. So again, big plus for this guitar. Next, there's no buzzing or rattling or any annoying noises caused by this bridge at all. On that one, the one I got first, I did put Loctite on just in case. On this one, I haven't put any Loctite on it at all, anywhere, and there is no difference in buzz or rattle or annoying noises between the bridges at all. I'd go so far as to say that you don't need Loctite with this bridge, which is pretty cool. Next, there is tons of resonance behind the bridge, and it feels to me like you can play basically any note on the fretboard and get a usable behind the bridge sound, rather than being limited to certain notes or certain keys. So that's really cool. I haven't given a musical example of this, just making random noise, but it opens up so many doors for using this as a more serious musical tool, as well as a more annoying, horrible noise device. The bridge is really comfortable, there's no sharp edges, everything's really nice and rounded, the intonation is spot on, and the tuning stability with the semi-rocking design is great as well. Lastly, every bridge impacts its own unique tonal footprint onto your instrument. That's to do with the materials of the bridge, the way it's made, how the string interacts with the interface of the bridge. I have shot a couple of quick comparisons between this bridge and the bobber bridge, which is the steel Fender Japan bridge with the Gotoh in-tune brass saddles. Let's have a quick listen. So my initial impressions just in the room was that the high spirit guitar imparted a louder, brighter, clearer, and more bell-like character to the guitar. When I then went and listened over and over again to the audio comparison, I found that the high spirit bridge adds a really nice, even and balanced and smooth tone to the sound as well. There's no obvious bumps or spikes or harsh elements of the EQ at all with this bridge. By comparison, the bobber bridge seemed kind of bloated in the low end or the low mids, and it also seemed slightly more tame in the highs or upper mids as well. Swapping back to the high spirit bridge, it really smooths that EQ out and gives it a really nice, clear, chimey quality in the high end or upper mids as well, which is absolutely perfect for my liking. In terms of negative things, there really isn't a lot to say for the high spirits bridge. There are only two things that I can think of that are arguably negatives. The first thing is that I couldn't find an Allen key that would adjust the bridge height posts while the bridge was attached. Now, I don't know if that's just because I only really have metric Allen keys and this will use an imperial Allen key size. The bridge doesn't come with Allen keys, and normally I find it annoying when things come with Allen keys because I have loads of them. But maybe in this instance it would have been useful. The other possibility is that this guitar had metric bridge post holes to begin with, and I didn't have a 9.5mm drill to enlarge them with, so I just carefully filed around the edge of the holes. And I did the same thing on that guitar too. It's possible that in doing that I have slightly widened the bridge post spacing, and so the bridge posts are being pulled at by the top of the bridge here, which could prevent the bridge posts from turning with the Allen keys that I have. So in order to adjust the action with these two bridges, I've had to take the top of the bridge off, adjust the bridge post height, and put the bridge top back on, and do a little bit of trial and error. Now, either that is my fault because I don't have the right size Allen key, or it's my fault because I might have slightly increased the bridge post spacing and put additional pressure on those posts, which would prevent them from being turned with an Allen key. Secondly, and this one is a little bit more universal, when the top of the bridge is off, the bridge posts turn very, very easily. And it's very easy to mess up your action settings when the top of the bridge is off. I would recommend taping them down so that they don't move. And I've also drawn a little line on mine on the thimble and on the top of the bridge post so that I can line them up when I finish doing any maintenance on the guitar. It might be nice if they didn't spin quite so easily when the top of the bridge was off, but again, that's not something that's going to happen very often. And lastly, this is really very specific to me. Although the bridge has a very wide intonation range, you can't utilize the full range of the intonation on the low E and high E strings. And the reason for that is this beautifully rounded lip on the top here. You can only get the outer saddles to about here before the rounded corner of the top design prevents the square edge of the saddle from going any higher up. Now, on a normal guitar, where the bridge is in a normal place like this, you won't be coming anywhere near the top or the back lip of the bridge plate here on the top. Also, I have found this exact same problem on other bridges, and we're going to be reviewing a couple of more bridges soon, and we'll come back to this on those bridges as well. However, on this guitar, where the original bridge posts were here, and I've moved the bridge forwards to 24 and 6/16 of an inch, because that's where the wood stops and it's empty. Here, where you would normally have the Jaguar, it's hollow, where you would normally have the Jaguar bridge. I need a bridge where I can really maximize the intonation points on the bridge, and that's why I've chosen the high spirits for this guitar. However, I did have to modify the bridge in order to get those outer saddles to reach their maximum intonation points. I did that by having a little metalworking bit in my drill press, clamping the top of the bridge in a vise and carefully moving the vise against that metalworking bit to take the metal out. It's not the neatest job in the world, but it's not the worst job in the world either. And for 99% of people, this isn't going to be an issue. But if you are using this bridge to convert a Jazzmaster body into a Jaguar or 24-inch scale guitar, you will just have to take out a bit of material to allow you to use the full intonation range of the guitar for those outer saddles. The middle one, there's no issue because there's no lip above the middle saddle. It's just for those outer two saddles. But again, it's only going to be 0.1% of users of this bridge who are going to run into that issue, I would imagine. Coming into land then, to conclude, do I recommend this bridge? In case it hasn't been obvious to you by this point yet, I think it should have been, I really highly recommend this bridge. This is as close to perfection as I can imagine a bridge being. If I was going to design a bridge, it would be incredibly similar to this. I might go for a slightly more exotic shape for this top bit than what this is, but I think this is a really excellent bridge. And even though this isn't the most sexy shape for the top of a bridge you could have, I think it's completely suitable on a really modern looking offset guitar, as well as on a bit more of a traditional design, and it's really effective. The negatives are mostly down to user error / weird use cases, and really there's very little that I can complain about this bridge, and there's very little room for improvement even. In terms of tone, performance, design, price, aesthetic, this ticks every box for me. And I'm so glad that I have been able to try this bridge and use it. I've used a lot of different offset bridges, and I've got more that I am going to try and going to review, but it would take a lot for me to try a bridge that could be better than this. And I don't know if I ever will. I know those are quite extreme or over-the-top words to say, but really this bridge is perfect for me. And if I do one day find a bridge that's even better than this, then that's cool, that's great. But for now, this is really, I'm just so happy with this bridge. If you have any questions about this bridge or about anything that I've said in the video or anything that I've used, please feel free to hit me up and ask me a question in the comment section below or via Instagram. I'd be really interested to see if you guys would be interested in trying one of these bridges and what you guys think about the design, the tone, and the overall performance of the bridge. I don't think there's anyone that I wouldn't recommend this bridge to. The only caveat is that you would have to be comfortable if you have a Japanese Fender or a Squier or possibly a Mexican as well. You would just have to slightly enlarge by 0.5 mm your bridge thimble roots on your guitar. But it's really easy to do with a file or with a proper tool, or I'm sure it wouldn't cost much to get a professional to do it for you. And it's honestly worth it. It is so worth it. I can't recommend this highly enough. So there you go. I think that's everything there is to say about it. Maybe even too much already. So until next time, look after yourselves, take it easy, and I'll see you again soon.